Am I the a-hole for running away and making my parents look like bad people? So, about a year back, my family, me 17 female, my brother, mom and dad, got kicked out of our rental home. My parents struggled financially to support all of us and couldn't find an affordable house that suited our needs, so they came up with a genius solution. They basically started renting a 2-bedroom house and told me in no uncertain terms that I was to go find a family member to take me in. They kicked me out and left me on the front yard with basically nothing but a bag of clothes and my cat. They didn't even help me figure out a living situation. I ended up staying with my disabled aunt for a few weeks, but she couldn't financially support us both, so I had to figure something else out. I ended up venting about this online, and an older friend of mine, Ace, 24, privately reached out and offered to let me stay with him. Ace and I had been friends for a little while at this point, and I trusted him, so I said yes. He drove up to my aunt's place and stayed with us for a few weeks, and then we packed up my things and headed back to Ace's home. Disclaimer: I know this seems extremely sketchy and in most cases would be, but Ace is chill, and we talk with certain members of my family daily, so he's up to date on literally every bit of drama that goes on in our lives, so no one's really concerned about Ace doing anything. We only live about an hour-ish from my aunt. I'm safe. Please don't call Ace weird or sketchy or anything. He isn't. Anyway, recently one of my cousins got married, and I got invited. I wanted to go, so Ace drove me home and I went to the wedding with a friend. This was the first time since they kicked me out that my parents saw me and they freaked out. My mom grabbed me and started screaming and crying about how worried she was about me, and my dad started yelling at me demanding where I went. This was in the middle of the reception. I told them that since they kicked me out, I left. A lot of distant family heard this and got pissed off at my parents for kicking a minor out of the house, and others for them ruining cousin's wedding. In the chaos of people freaking out over my parents and trying to calm everyone down so the party could continue, I managed to sneak out and go back to Ace. We went home, and ever since I've been bombarded with calls from my parents, another family telling me to go back and stop hanging out with that pervert. I've been refusing and blocking numbers left and right. Also, my cousin forgave me for what happened at her wedding. She said she enjoyed the drama and having the attention off of her while her husband solely blamed my parents for what happened. I honestly think my parents don't actually care about me. If they did, then they would have contacted my school before now about me, or the cops. Or even my aunt who says that they never ever talked about me when they called her. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. By the way, your parents can't actually legally throw you out at 17. You could have gone to the cops. And your parents only looked like bad people here because they are. My mom kicked me out when I was 16. I walked to the police station. I was told, she can't kick you out. And I replied that she just did. It was met with another, she can't. I ended up leaving the station because they weren't going to actually do anything. Cops are useless. Yep. My friend's dad randomly started locking him out at 15, so he practically lived at my house. And you're right, the cops can't monitor that stuff and they won't. Not stay home. You did nothing wrong, and so long as you feel safe with Ace and he is helping you, I don't see a problem there. Your people who gave you life are just mad they are now known for not being parents. Not stay home. You didn't run away. They kicked you out. They made that scene because family was asking about you at the wedding and they didn't know how to answer. So when you showed up, they saw it as the perfect opportunity to turn it around onto you as running away to deflect from them kicking you out. They didn't expect you to tell the truth. Their little made-up story to save face didn't quite work out for them. Oh wow. And I was wondering, why did the parents start making a fuss of they're the guilty ones? How sordid of them. Not stay home. You didn't run away. You were abandoned. You were left to figure it out on your own, and their reaction was solely to deflect blame away from them. Rude and disrespectful not only to you, but to the bride and groom. You have no culpability in this situation. You could have gone to the police or CPS, and they could and should have been arrested. Please don't say you ran away. That makes it sound like you had a choice in this situation. You were abandoned and forced by them to find your own way as a minor. My heart breaks for you. When karma comes for them, please enjoy the show. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother-in-law's wife out of my husband's wake? My brother-in-law, Andres, married to his longtime girlfriend, Bea, last year. The wedding was held 30 minutes from the city by boat. During the reception, my husband, Dante, collapsed. His brain aneurysm ruptured, and he never made it to the hospital. First day of my husband's wake, Andres and Bea came. Andres had been crying. I noticed how he looked like he hasn't had any sleep. Bea gave me her condolences and placed flowers beside my husband's casket. Andres was always there, only leaving to shower and change while Bea would visit every night. On the fourth night, while I was making myself coffee, Bea approached me and started telling me how terrible things had been. Dante dying on the most important day of her life. I told her how devastated I was. We have always been careful since the day we found out about Dante's aneurysm. He quit his job as a physics teacher at our local high school 3 years ago. We visit our GP regularly just to make sure that everything is going well. Bea cut me off and asked me, "So you mean you knew about the aneurysm?" I told her yes, and that he had been taking medication for it. She said Andres never told her about it. She continued saying it was reckless of us to dance and drink when we know about Dante's condition. He only had a glass of champagne. I asked her what she means, and she basically told me that had she known about my husband's illness, she never would have invited us to her wedding. She said we ruined her wedding. That after we left the island, the reception was cut short. Andres was so worried to even focus on his new wife. I told her to leave before I forget that she was ever my friend. She didn't listen and continued telling me how expensive her wedding was, and that by ruining it, I owe her half of the expenses. I shouted at her and told her to get over herself. My in-laws heard us and came to stop everything before it escalated. I told her to leave and never come back unless she apologized. My in-laws, who still didn't understand what's happened, told Andres to take Bea home. Both mother-in-law and father-in-law were upset with me for causing a scene in their son's wake. I didn't tell them what Bea said. They only found out after Andres told them. He and Bea had a fight, and they had moved their honeymoon, which was supposed to be a month after we buried my husband. To make the long story short, Bea didn't apologize. Until now, we still haven't spoken. I don't go to family dinners anymore, but I still have a good relationship with my in-laws. I do believe that I have all the right to be angry at Bea, but I also want to make my in-laws happy. They have been nothing but good to me. And unless Bea and I make up, there will always be tension in our family. So am I the a-hole for the way I reacted? Was kicking her out an overreaction? Not the a-hole. I'm not entirely sure why the in-laws keep inviting her to things after what she said, or why Andres even stayed married to her, but that's for them to worry about. You are under no obligation to go out of your way to socialize with someone who refuses to acknowledge their breathtaking insensitivity and self-centeredness. This, and this. Every word. I am flabbergasted. You went as far as commiserating with her on your own husband's wake. Because, yeah, it does suck to have this happen on one's own wedding. But this was already very, very mature of you. What you got after was just, wow. I especially loved the pettiness of asking for a refund. Yes, like it's okay for Bea to have these thoughts. Emphasis, thoughts. Because grief does weird things to people. And it was her wedding. But you know who you never freaking ever express those thoughts to? The goddamn widow or grieving family. Like, holy crap. Keep it to yourself and or your therapist. And then the part where she asked to be reimbursed. Holy chips. That was so far over the line she's been lost to the sunset. Not today, OP. Look, it's her wedding year and it was completely inconsiderate of Opie to lose her husband during that year. Not a-hole. She basically said your husband died on purpose to ruin her wedding. That is beyond a-hole. It's cruel, insensitive and all that. For me, that would be lifelong no contact. This, my husband's best friend, was meant to be our best man and had been in the hospital for a while. But the morning of our wedding, he passed away. One of the groomsmen told me he'd passed, and I knew I was the only person who could break the news. My husband and I did a first look, and I remember thinking, how am I going to tell him that his best friend is gone? I was in my dress. We both had family from out of state, and the cake was there, the flowers, etc. I looked at the love of my life and told him his best friend was gone. Then I said, if you can't do this today, we won't. We'll figure it all out. I'm not going to stand by and watch you have to put on a brave face for the sake of a party when your heart is broken. My husband and I got married that day, at his insistence, and everyone told me later that his best friend wouldn't have had it any other way. We went to the memorial service on the last day of our honeymoon. If my brother-in-law had passed away at my reception, the absolute last thing on my mind would have been witching about a ruined party to his wife at his funeral. All I'd be able to do was sit next to her and provide my shoulder, and remind her she's loved. Opie's not the a-hole, but dear God, I can't imagine what her in-laws are thinking. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for choosing my twin brother over my wife? I, 27 male, have a twin, Lucas, 27 male. We are very much alike in some things. He loves fitness and so do I. That's why I became a firefighter and is a gym manager. He has a motorcycle, Kawasaki Ninja 300 I'm pretty sure. He was on a closing shift and he got rear-ended by a crappy Ford. He broke his left leg at his collarbone and has a mild concussion. I broke down when I heard this, as he's my best friend. Forward 2 days after the crash, my wife is going to a wedding and I'm her +1. While we were getting ready to leave while she was doing her makeup, my brother texted me from the hospital and for me to please come to the hospital because he really needs comfort and is in pain and stuff. I told my wife about the situation and she yelled at me to not go there because he's a grown man that can suck the pain. I slammed the front door shut, leaving her with our baby and went on my motorcycle there. I didn't even think. All I could think about is how much of a witch she was then. I stayed with my brother overnight as I had work the next morning. Now, I have been getting texts from her family and friends saying I was an awful husband for not choosing your wife and choosing your brother. I blocked all of them. And now my wife is expecting me to apologize for something that she started and making me look after our baby as soon as I get from work. I told her I'm not apologizing until you are. I'm sorry, but he is blood related, my brother, and it hurts me to see him in that state. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Maybe after the divorce, you and your brother can get bunk beds. Fun! You're the a-hole. So you ain't even gonna bring up the fact that she said that he could suck up the pain and that she thought a wedding was more important than supporting a family member in need. It was 2 days after the crash. There was no immediate threat. The twin just wanted comfort, and they had a prior obligation. I'd be mad too. The brother wasn't in any life-threatening scenario where going to a wedding would cause Opie to miss anything. Especially as it sounds like the wedding was local. Not any overnight or anything. So yes, Opie's the a-hole all around. What's the dude going to do for his brother? Hey bro, how you doing? You okay? And magically the brother will get better and go water skiing? You're the a-hole. It sounds like you didn't want to go and this was a perfect excuse. Have you ever heard of this amazing concept called emotional support? Dude just got into a major accident that probably scared the absolute crap out of him, and is now alone at a hospital in pain. Opie shouldn't have left the way he did, although I understand being angry at that rather heartless comment she made. But if my sister was in the same situation, I wouldn't be going to a wedding instead of going to comfort her. I would expect my wife to understand that, and I know for a fact that my fiancé would understand. You don't visit people in the hospital because you can fix it. Also, if he just wanted an excuse not to go, he wouldn't wait until his brother asked for him when he was already about to attend. Or are you suggesting he asked his brother to call him at that moment, like he was a friend getting him out of a bad date? Edit. When I mean taking care of our baby, I mean not doing nothing. We made an agreement before she was born what jobs we would do. Example, she does the feeding and the nappy changing, and I feed her at night and put her to sleep. I'm not a bad father, I'm just a witch sometimes, and I get I overreacted and shouldn't have left. So, yeah. Now for the last story, am I the a-hole for telling my coworker she got what she paid for? So I, 20 female, work with this woman, Julia, 25-ish female, not her real name, and she recently got engaged. A group of us were talking in a break room, and Julia was complaining about how she wanted engagement photos, but professional photographers were too expensive. One of our coworkers then mentioned that I got a really nice camera as a Christmas gift, and that I could probably take pictures for them. Hearing this, I immediately said, yes, but I'm not a professional or anything. I just take pictures of my dog and stuff. Julia told me that a nice camera is a nice camera, and a photographer doesn't matter. She asked if I'll take free pictures for them, and I said I would. I know, I'm dumb, but I wanted to be nice, and I felt kinda trapped because she asked in front of everyone. We have the photography session, and it went pretty well. The pictures turned out pretty nice, and I spent a lot of time teaching myself how to edit them for her. Yesterday, I brought a few of the edited pictures to work for Julia to take a look. The pictures aren't at a professional level or anything, but I thought they looked pretty nice. Julia didn't agree, I guess, because she said, "Oh, these are okay, but I guess I was expecting something different. I have a little bit of a big mouth and a short temper, so here's the part where I may have been the a-hole." I said, "Well, you don't have to be a witch about it. You wanted free pictures and you got what you paid for." Now, I'm refusing to give Julia the rest of the photos, and some of our coworkers are accusing me of overreacting and being too sensitive. Am I overreacting? Am I the a-hole here? Not the a-hole. I'm a professional photographer, and honestly, I hear this all the time. Julia told me that a nice camera is a nice camera and a photographer doesn't matter. It makes me furiously angry every time I hear it. I spent years learning how to be a good photographer, and it has nothing to do with the camera. I can take better engagement pictures with my phone than a non-trained photographer can with an expensive DSLR. Julia's ignorant and selfish and wants professional quality for free. Also, as a professional, I will tell you that the client never gets all the pictures I take. I edit photos and I present the best of the best. So there's no reason you should give her all the pictures. Give her the ones you are proud to share with her and others and be done with it. And word of advice, people who put down a profession and want something for free are always going to be problems. Don't let yourself get sucked into this again. If I don't understand it, it must be easy. Seems to be quite a commonplace line of thought. Or, most of the technical skills required are subtle or hidden, so I can call it easy and demand it free. Not the a-hole. Julia sounds like she belongs in r/choosing beggars, although I think I'd give Julia the unedited photos, since you weren't charging her in the first place, and let that be your wedding gift. By the way, I work with a guy who started taking free photos for people and got really good at it, so now it's his side hustle. So if you're interested, don't give up. Not the a-hole, but you're not doing yourself any favors professionally. It will cause you more workplace drama if you continue to hold on to the photos. You agreed to do the photo shoot and are now withholding the photos. Regardless of the reason, some people will perceive you as unreliable and emotional because of this choice. Your coworker was wrong, but you chose to put yourself in the position of getting involved with her outside of the workplace. It would be best for your reputation to apologize for the way you worded your response. Explain that you were hurt because you tried your best and hand over the photos. Would I be the a-hole for reporting my brother-in-law to CBS for what he did? My male 27 sister passed away in 2018. She left behind my 10-year-old nephew, and me and my nephew used to be very close. But because of the tension between me and my brother-in-law, his dad, we don't get along for several reasons. But I'm not going to get into that right now. My brother-in-law used to be a member of a club in his hometown. He has lots of tattoos. His whole left arm is covered in tattoos, as well as his neck and fingers. Last week, while he was visiting my parents' house, I was there, and I spent some time with my nephew. My nephew said the upper part of his shoulder has been itching. I checked and saw a spider-shaped tattoo with few letters around it. I was shocked because it looked like a permanent tattoo. There was redness in his skin, and he told me his dad got him a tattoo a few days ago. I went to speak to his dad. He didn't even try to explain, and just responded with, "So what?" when I asked if he really got his son a tattoo. I got into an argument with him telling him that what he did was not acceptable, especially since my nephew said he hated it. I asked who was okay with giving a minor a tattoo. My brother-in-law said that the tattoo artist is a close friend of his, and he agreed to give my nephew a tattoo. I told him this was wrong, and I will be getting CPS involved. He then yelled at me, telling to F off, and that I can't do jack since he's the father and has the authority. My parents told me to back off after he said he won't bring my nephew to visit again if I continue. My dad told me to mind my own business and stop being a jerk to a widower. I got overwhelmed after everyone demanded I apologize for my behavior, and I have not seen any of my family ever since. I've been thinking about this confrontation and my nephew's well-being. I'm worried and seriously considering calling CPS about what brother-in-law did. Now for the top comments. Not at AITA. There's a reason minors aren't allowed tattoos, especially when they've yet to finish growing. I would absolutely call CPS. The pain involved in tattooing, especially against a child's will, is nothing short of abuse. The man is not a fit parent, and being a widow, especially for 3 years, is no excuse for this. Not at AITA. Make the call. I am a mandated reporter. If I saw a tattoo on a 10-year-old kid at my school, I would be required to make the call. Every state has a confidentiality policy, meaning they can out you. The family won't get that information and may think a teacher did it. This kid is doubtless going to show his classmates and word spreads. You can't deny it, because they're a-holes. This kid has a tattoo he hates, and it may be infected. Make the call and let the authorities handle it. What happens is up to them in the courts, not you. But someone needs to make that call, and you sound like the only sensible adult in the equation. Good on you for caring for that kid. This kid has a tattoo he hates, and it may be infected. This is my main concern for the moment. No sane tattoo artist would do this to a child. So this means that the one who actually did it to the poor boy is probably someone who isn't strict with the rules either. And it is bothering the child. Infection is a real danger, and there are plenty of other risks as well. So the poor child definitely needs to be seen by a doctor. Report, report, report. It is in the best interest of the child. Not at AITA. Please call CPS. Might wreck your relationship with brother-in-law, but who cares? He sounds like an A. Giving him a tattoo? That's insane. Not at AITA. This is child abuse. Honestly, the brother-in-law sounds like an absolute psycho. This might ruin your relationship with him, but honestly, it is in your nephew's best interest. And brother-in-law doesn't sound like the kind of person you'd want in your life anyway. Is it possible your parents were defending him out of fear? They may be scared of losing their grandson, and also scared of brother-in-law himself. I try not to worry too much about their reaction, and do what you feel is right. Deep down, they probably know that what he did was wrong, and are too scared to admit it in front of him. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my parents insensitive after their reaction toward my late brother's wife's pregnancy test? My older brother passed away almost 2 months ago, and the feelings are still very fresh. My sister-in-law, his wife, is staying at my parents' house right now because she still can't set foot in their apartment. I, 29 male, live a few houses down from my parents, so I'm over all the time right now being there with them, so we all have that support. 2 weeks ago, my sister-in-law was getting sick, throwing up and stuff, but grief makes it hard to eat sometimes. I know, because I've dropped 5 pounds and can't eat much either. But since this only recently started happening to her, my mom became ecstatic out of nowhere and said maybe she's pregnant. This really freaked my sister-in-law out, and she honestly looked terrified. My parents went on talking about how beautiful it would be to have a baby right now, and it's my brother's parting gift. This did not make her happy at all. She bought a pregnancy test that same day, and it was negative. Sister-in-law was relieved, but my parents were not. My mom told her to wait another week, because sometimes it takes a while for the hormones to change or something like that. Again came back negative. My mom is still insisting she's pregnant, and sister-in-law has an appointment tomorrow to confirm, but she's pretty certain she's not. At dinner yesterday, all they would talk about is the baby, and sister-in-law admitted she doesn't want a child right now. This really angered my mom, and she said my sister-in-law was being very cruel for not wanting her child. It started upsetting sister-in-law and looked like she was gonna cry, so I told them to stop it already. She left at the table, and I called them out for being insensitive. I said they don't get she just lost her husband. Do you really think she wants to be a single mom right now on top of what she's going through? And why would they want this pregnancy when that'll mean their grandkid will grow up without their father? I was pretty red in the face telling them this because it really got to me. All week, I've told them to leave her alone about this because it's obviously been too much for sister-in-law and they just wouldn't stop. Even when she tells them she doesn't want to talk about it. This made my mom emotional too and told me I don't understand because I'm not a parent. Then my dad got mad at me for reacting that way when they just want to be happy about the possibility of having a grandchild. But to me, it's been pointed out to them that sister-in-law isn't happy about this, so I push it and make her uncomfortable. My parents are still mad at me. Dad does think I was an a-hole for calling them insensitive and making it seem like they were doing something wrong. Sister-in-law is still a mess and anxious about her appointment. She doesn't believe she's pregnant, but says she doesn't know what she'll do if it somehow turns out she is. Anyways, I'd like to know if what I said made me an a-hole. It really pissed me off is all. Not an a-hole at all. Thank you for standing up for your sister-in-law. Your mother is understandably grieving the loss of her child right now, and has latched onto the idea that his widow could be carrying his child. Honestly, I hope for everyone's sake she isn't, because this isn't healthy. I guarantee that your mother is already thinking of this child as the reincarnation of your brother, and it will be insufferable. Your mother needs therapy. Your father is also an a-hole for completely ignoring that your sister-in-law lost her husband in his own grief for his son. Can your sister-in-law stay with you? It'd probably be better for her. I hope so too. She already told me she doesn't know if she could actually make it through a pregnancy. And I get that. But it would cause an even bigger drama with my parents, so here's hoping she isn't. We're talking about that. I told her if she's not comfortable there, she can come here. She just feels guilty about leaving since they took her in. For your information, if she's feeling sick but got 2 negative tests, she's 99% not pregnant. Typically, you don't start feeling nauseated until you're about 6 weeks pregnant or later, and that's more than enough time to get a positive test. Pregnancy symptoms typically don't appear till, well, after you've missed your period or got any positive tests, so I'm pretty sure she's in the clear. Not a a-hole. I've actually been in this situation. My husband died 6 years ago. When he died, his mother kept asking if I could be pregnant and saying how she would love to have something of my husband still left behind. She put pressure on me, and when we found out that I wasn't pregnant, it made me feel like a terrible person who couldn't give his mom what she wanted. It was a mess, and I didn't need that guilt and pain when I was already devastated over losing my husband. You sound honestly amazing for standing up for your sister-in-law. That was kind of you, and the right thing to do. Your parents need to back off and let her grieve. They are taking their emotions out on her, and it's not beneficial for anyone. Keep having her back. You're a good guy. Not at a-hole. Your parents are treating your sister-in-law like a human incubator for your brother's memories. They need to step back and realize they are being outrageous, and their behavior is absolutely unacceptable. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my mother-in-law a bad mother and kicking her off a family Zoom call? My 41 female husband 42 male and I have been married for 15 years. I have an okay relationship with my mother-in-law, but prefer to limit contact with her because she's very nosy and likes to gossip. When I first met my husband, he told me that he was an only child. However, when we started to get serious and were discussing marriage, he told me that he was in fact not an only child, that he has a sister. However, he wants nothing to do with her. He told me he tells people that he is an only child because 1, people will be nosy and ask why he does not speak to her, or 2, try to get him to fix the relationship with her. I told him that it was his choice, and that family's who you choose, not what you were born into. He went on to explain that his sister has a history with addiction. She is a habitual liar and would lie on purpose so that he would get into trouble and not her, and that she would steal from him. He said that when he moved out at 18, the last conversation that he had with his sister was him telling her that he wanted nothing to do with her, and that he is an only child. My mother-in-law has been trying to force a relationship between them ever since, much to the detriment of her own relationship with her son. Saturday was my husband's birthday, so I organized a family Zoom call 2 weeks ago so that everyone could sing happy birthday and open presents with him. The week prior, my mother-in-law sent me a message over Facebook that she wanted to surprise my husband with his sister. She said she felt like it was time for the two of them to bury the hatchet. I told her that this is not a good idea, that my husband wants nothing to do with her, and that I would not open lines of communication between the two of them without discussing it with him first. She asked me if I could give sister-in-law my contact information, and I told her no. Well, she did anyway, and my sister-in-law started texting and calling me on my phone. Since she is not a Facebook friend, she cannot contact me online. I told my husband about it, and he was beyond pissed off. He told mother-in-law to stop trying to force him to have a relationship with his sister, and if she cannot respect this, he will stop speaking to her as well. We thought all was fine, until Saturday. Right as we were getting ready to sing happy birthday, mother-in-law tells my husband she has a surprise, and sister-in-law sits down next to her and starts crying and sobbing about how she misses her brother. My husband was so angry that he walked away. I told my mother-in-law she was a horrible mother, and have since blocked her on Facebook and on my phone. Now, I'm getting Facebook messages and phone calls from other relatives, including my own family, about how rude I was and how I should apologize to mother-in-law for how I behaved. My own mother says that mother-in-law was only trying to help, and that I need to unblock her and beg forgiveness. Am I the a-hole for calling my mother-in-law a horrible mother? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She did something she knew would upset him, and on his birthday. Your husband is an adult and has made his wishes clear, and I'm sure he's happy that you have his back. I agree, not the a-hole. I think a lot of people struggle imagining situations in which they'd cut family off because of their own good relationships, but it does not mean supposed well-intentioned meddling is done for the husband's benefit. Your family should not be interfering or apply pressure on a situation they're hearing about third hand. Good luck. Exactly. My first loyalty is to my husband. He has explained why he feels this way, and his so-called mother has done nothing but refuse to respect his boundaries. If you think such blatant disrespect is acceptable behavior, then I have misjudged you, and I think it's best we do not communicate further while I reevaluate our relationship. Not the a-hole. Your husband made it clear that he does not want a relationship with his sister, and that needs to be respected. Your mother-in-law is horrible because her son has repeatedly told her he doesn't want a relationship with his sister. And instead of supporting his decision, she keeps finding ways to force one. You have nothing to apologize for. Keep her blocked and everything, and anyone who insists on demanding you apologize can join her on a blocked list. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not asking my sister-in-law to go to dinner with us? My first time posting here, so please bear with me. A little bit of background. My husband, male 30, and I, female 30, have been living with my in-laws for 2 years now. I share an okay rapport with them as their expectations are a little too much for me to handle, but that's a different story. My sister-in-law, female 23, is kind of spoiled, where she pretty much gets what she wants every time and will change the story, manipulate things and lie in order to make herself look good in front of other people. She has been having issues with her boyfriend for some time, and every time she comes to me for advice and wants to hang out with me when her boyfriend stops hanging out with her. But as soon as they are on good terms or she makes new friends, she stops hanging out with me. She has never asked me to hang out with her when she doesn't need me. On the other hand, my husband and I will try to include her in our outings, dinners, if I'm going to my cousin's house, shopping, etc. So the issue arose when she found out that my husband and I went for dinner with my brother in the city and we did not ask her to go. I had not had dinner with my brother since I got married, and I barely see him as he lives away in a different city than us. This was a random plan that my husband and I ended up making, and as we were getting ready to go out, I suggested we message my brother and see if he wants to hang out with us for dinner. He was free, and so he said yes. We drove to a city 45 minutes, had dinner, and came back home around 11:30 p.m. By this time, everyone was asleep. The next day, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were having breakfast but would not talk to me properly. I tried to say hi and ask how they were doing, but they ignored me. When I kept asking what happened, then my sister-in-law started crying and in a passive-aggressive tone said, "I thought you cared about me." And I said, "I do care about you, but I am not sure what I did wrong to make you cry." At this point, she started saying that I knew she was having a hard time in her relationship and needed support from me, and that she was lonely all day yesterday, and if I was going to be hanging out with my brother for dinner, then I should have taken her too. She said she thought I was going on a date with my husband and therefore did not tag along. But if she knew I was going to have dinner with my brother and husband, then she should have been included too. I have to be honest, I was feeling livid at this point. Her sense of entitlement was making me fume, and I couldn't hold it in any longer. I told her that I get to decide who I have dinner with, and that just because she's having a hard time in her relationship doesn't mean I owe it to her to take her out and make her feel better every single time. My mother-in-law was not happy that I raised my voice and thought my sister-in-law yelled at both me and my husband. My mother-in-law is holding us accountable for making her daughter cry. She is expecting us to apologize to sister-in-law. Am I the a-hole for not taking my sister-in-law for dinner and losing my cool when she yelled? Not the a-hole, but you need to move out, or everyone sucks here. There is obvious tension in the family that isn't necessarily your fault. Your sister-in-law is definitely toxic. But if y'all don't leave the situation, you're just as bad as all of them because you're engaging in and supporting her and your in-laws' behavior. My family has been convincing me to move out, but my husband's mom is not in the best of health, and I am expected to do the chores in the house and take care of the family. That's why we live with the in-laws. Oh, so you belong to them. You have your own life and can make your own choices. You're choosing to stay. Your husband should be making you the priority, not his parents. Thank you. Sometimes one needs another person to be firm and say it as is. I totally get I'm choosing to stay. It's just that I can't leave without my husband, and he's been under their control his whole life. To the point where he didn't even have his own bank account, and his money used to go to them, and he would get pocket money to spend if needed. We need to discuss our future and see what we can do. I'm going to be blunt. You might have to leave him. I hope he stands up and sees the abuse that his parents have put him through his whole life and now onto you. But he might just be in too deep. If that's the case, you have to do what's best for you. You can't keep others warm by setting yourself on fire. Wow, never thought about it in that way. Thanks for putting things in perspective. He has realized the abuse his parents have put him through, and he thanks me for helping me see it. We will be getting my parents' help for our next steps.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister's family live in my house after they sold theirs for a dream vacation? So I, 32 male, own a modest 3-bedroom house that I've been paying off for the last 10 years. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, and I'm proud of it. My sister, 29 female, and her husband, 31 male, are the typical free-spirited types. They've always talked about quitting the rat race, living life to the fullest, all that. Well, a few months ago, they finally did it. They sold their house during a booming market, thinking the profit would fund a year-long break to travel. They believed they could stretch the money by traveling cheaply, staying in hostels or Airbnbs, and getting by with occasional odd jobs. At first, they stayed in nicer places and ate out a lot, thinking they had plenty of cushion. But within 2 months, they were out of money. They underestimated how quickly expenses would pile up, especially with 2 young kids, 7 female and 5 male, to feed and care for. Now that their funds are drained, they've decided to stop full-time travel, but don't want to settle down yet. Instead, they asked to live with me, rent-free, for the next 10 months while they figure things out. They say they'll still try to take some occasional trips if they find super cheap deals, but for the most part, they want to stay at my house. I told them no. My house isn't big enough. I don't want the disruption, and I certainly don't think it's fair for them to live off me because their plan failed. I offered to help them find an affordable rental, or even cover part of their expenses for a couple of months so they could get back on their feet, but that wasn't enough. My sister blew up at me, calling me selfish and accusing me of being jealous of their adventurous lifestyle. To make it worse, my parents are siding with her, saying that family should help family and that I'm being too rigid. The thing is, my parents live in a small apartment and can't take in my sister's family, which is probably why they're pushing it to me. They say I don't understand the value of experiences and that I should be more supportive. Some of our mutual friends are also saying I should be more understanding, but I think it's completely unreasonable to expect me to house their whole family for nearly a year just because they didn't plan properly. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. They say I don't understand the value of experiences. Tell them you don't value the experience of having freeloaders in your house indefinitely. Not a-hole. I would have just started laughing uncontrollably and wouldn't have even been able to answer for the last 5 minutes. Financial screw-ups, check. Parents on side of financial screw-ups, check. Mutual friends on side of the financial screw-ups, check. Parents can upsize, mutual friends can accommodate. You are under zero obligation to fund their financial screw-ups. Yep, I would start telling all of those people, I'm so glad you want to help sister/brother-in-law. Would you like me to tell them the great news that they can live with you rent-free with their 2 kids? Or do you want to give them the happy news? To the parents, I'm happy you want to help them out. Do you want my help to sell your current place and look for a bigger place? When they're all like, oh, we don't want to house them, be like, yeah, neither do I. So you do understand. You just think it's okay for them to take advantage of me. Good to know you think so little of me. I will be lowering contact till you pull your head out of your behind. Not a-hole OP. OP, please install cameras all around your house if you don't already have any. People who think it's wise to sell their home and become vagrants with very young kids who should be learning socializing in school are not sane people, and I wouldn't put it past them to try and force their way in and squat. Next story. Am I the a-hole for accidentally ruining a highly anticipated wedding through a compliment? I, 17 female, have been staying at my uncle's house for a few weeks now. He is a handicapped man who lost both his legs to a car accident 5 years ago. Being a wheelchair user, he always believed that he would never get married or have a love life because of his age and physical limitations. However, he is a very hilarious man with an entertaining personality, and almost all our relatives love him and we all wanted him to find love. After a lot of matchmaking, he finally started dating a girl a year ago. They decided to get married on September 25th, 2024. A week ago, I came across an Instagram post of my friend, and in that picture I saw my uncle's girlfriend chilling in the background. What I didn't notice was a guy standing next to her. She was wearing a beautiful dress, so I sent that picture to my uncle appreciating his girl's beauty. Turns out that the guy I ignored was her ex. There arose some conflicts, and he called off the marriage. She may or may not have cheated on him. They didn't clarify anything. All my relatives are outraged after realizing that I was the main reason for this. They told me that I should have shown something like this to proper adults, instead of ruining a long-awaited marriage. I tried telling them that I didn't expect it to turn out like this, but they all keep insulting me for being a family ruiner. My uncle said that we should not try matchmaking in this case again, and that he is not interested in anything anymore. My senseless action led to all this mess, and I feel very guilty. Edit 1. The picture was not taken long ago. It was clicked on September 10 at the birthday party of the said friend's sibling. Not a-hole. You didn't ruin the marriage. It was a pre-existing issue that you unknowingly exposed. Exactly. It's unfair to blame her for uncovering something that was already brewing beneath the surface. It's tough to see how one mistake spiraled into such chaos. Your intentions were good, but it's a reminder that relationship can be fragile. Don't be too hard on yourself. You didn't mean for this to happen. So wait, your family thinks it would have been better if your uncle never found out his fiancée cheated on him and just ignorantly married a cheater anyway? Jesus, what a bunch of ableist a-holes. Your uncle is not some charity case who should gratefully accept whatever crappy cheating a-hole is willing to make a terrible sacrifice of marrying him. He's a good man with a great sense of humor who happens to use a wheelchair. He's allowed to have as high standards for a partner as anyone. Whoever he ends up with will be just as lucky to be with him as he will be to be with her. If your uncle was able-bodied and his fiancée cheated, no one would think you ruined his wedding by accidentally alerting him to the cheating. They would rightfully blame the cheating fiancée for ruining her own wedding and breaking your uncle's heart. This deeply ableist belief that this was his only chance, and you ruined it by revealing she was a crappy person, but crappy is all he can hope for. So it would have been better if he never found out. So this is your fault, Opie? It's absolutely disgusting. Your uncle deserves better from his future partners, and way better from his horrible ableist family, who don't seem to see him as a whole person equally deserving of love, loyalty, and respect. I agree. Even with your uncle's condition, he deserves someone that will truly love him and will not cheat on him. You did not ruin his wedding. You prevented your uncle from being miserable if he finds out that her girlfriend is cheating on him after their marriage, Opie. Not the a-hole. Edit 2. After taking inspiration from all the people that told me I am not at fault, I mustered up the courage to ask my cousin what exactly happened. The girlfriend was indeed cheating. I confirmed it. I stated that my family loves my uncle, but hearing everyone's take on this, I am genuinely questioning it. I don't know much about the core family drama involved in this, because they don't consider me an adult to share any of it. They are enforcing the forgive and forget culture. My grandmother is still trying to convince my uncle for a compromise. Apparently, I don't think she considers cheating as a problem. Don't question me. I am just as baffled as all of you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to go nuclear after my sister-in-law kicked out her teenage sons? Hey everyone. My husband, 34, and I, 36, are in a tough situation with my sister-in-law, Barbara, 41, and we need an outside perspective on whether we're overreacting or if our stance is justified. We're leaning toward the latter, but are open to thoughts. Barbara has 4 boys, 17, 14, 13, and 7. Despite her having a rough history with bad relationships, her kids have always been well-behaved. The only constant man in her life has been Reese, 48. Her on and off husband who does nothing for her or the kids except work. He blows his money gambling, cheats on her openly, and relies on her for everything else. For 7 years, she's come to us venting about him, swearing it's the last time, but always goes back. In 2020, after yet another huge fight, the entire family intervened. We sat her down, told her we were here to help with anything she needed. Lawyers, a safe place for her and the kids, even handling the legal stuff if necessary. She agreed to kick him out, but within 6 months he was back because he couldn't find a place to stay. This grown man, who has worked a steady job for 20 years, somehow needed help. Since then, things have gotten progressively worse. Barbara decided to stick with marriage counseling, even though the whole family urged her to leave. She's clung to the idea of honoring her marriage despite the toxic environment. As a result, her kids have started to suffer. The eldest started skipping school and smoking heavily. A few months ago, my husband got a 2 a.m. call from him, who said he was self-harming and afraid to act on it. When we got to their house, we learned he had told his stepdad the same thing, and Reese told him to just do it because no one would care. My husband, understandably, hit him in the face. We took the boy to the hospital and, after his release, brought him home with us for 3 weeks to help him recover. Eventually, he returned to his mom's house, thinking things had smoothed over, but they quickly fell apart again. Soon enough, the second oldest began having issues too. For months, they'd been fighting constantly, and we didn't realize how bad it had gotten until we couldn't get in touch with either of them. Barbara had gone silent. My husband showed up at her house and announced, something our family often does for fun, only to find out that she had washed her hands of the 2 boys for being disrespectful and kicked them out. She had even turned off their phones and didn't know where they were staying. We found out that they'd been crashing with friends for weeks, tried to stay under the radar because they were embarrassed. We picked them up from school and brought them home with us again. They told us that their mom and stepdad had been bullying them, constantly fighting, and that they didn't feel safe going back. Barbara admitted that she put them out, but insisted things weren't as bad as they made it sound. Now, my husband and I want to go full nuclear, report this to CPS, the police, and anyone who can intervene. But the rest of the family wants to handle it internally. We feel like 2 minors were abandoned, and that deserves an extreme response. But the family is now saying we're overreacting, and at the end of the day, these are not our children. So, are we the a-holes for wanting to report this situation and not leave it to family discussions? The 2 oldest boys are with us for now, but we're ready to escalate this. Now for the top comments before the little update. Escalated Monday morning. Good grief. What a mess. Not the a-hole. No, don't wait for a business day. This needs to be handled now. A call to CPS and police. You can't kick your kids out of your home. There are still 2 kids in the home. They need to be checked on too. The 2 oldest were kicked out because they could and probably were fighting back. The youngest can't. Not the a-hole. You're not the a-hole. Barbara's actions, kicking out her teenage sons and creating a toxic, unsafe environment, are serious and should be reported. You're absolutely right to involve authorities like CPS and the police. This is about protecting the kids, and family discussions won't fix the underlying issues. You did the right thing by prioritizing the boy's safety. It's good you called the police. This situation requires outside intervention. Not the a-hole. You can save the other 2 kids a decade of trauma if you put your foot down and end this. If she won't leave him, that's her problem. But those kids need out. Don't be the family that watches them get burned to the ground and does almost nothing but watch 'cause family. Be the family that cares enough to save them. Ignore all the enablers who get upset. I was that child, and I will die with resentment for most of my family who knew, but ignored it. Be the adults those kids deserve. Do the right thing, even if it angers people off because they can't pretend everything is perfect anymore to outsiders. Stop protecting the adults and protect the children. Before you escalate, you should get a family law attorney and get on pace to get certified to be foster parents. Being related is not an automatic reason for CPS to give custody. Ask how I know. Go nuclear after your ducks are in a row. Definitely prioritize the boy's safety. Report it. They need a stable environment ASAP. Update: we call the police. Thank you all for the support. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to go to my cousin's wedding after she brought a cake saying recovering from drugs to my birthday? So I, 32 female, have been clean for almost 3 years now after struggling with drug addiction. It's been a rough road, but I'm proud of how far I've come. Most of my family have been supportive, but some not so much. My cousin Emily, 28 female, and I aren't that close. We get along, but it's not like we talk often or anything. A few months ago, my family threw me a small birthday party. I was feeling really good about it. I mean, I've been through a lot, and I was finally in a place where I could enjoy being around people again. Everything was going fine until it was time for cake. Emily walks in, all smiles, holding a cake that says, "Congratulations on recovering from drugs," in big bright letters. I felt like my heart dropped. It was so embarrassing. I mean, yeah, everyone there knew about my recovery, but it wasn't something I wanted plastered all over a cake at my birthday party. Some people laughed awkwardly, and I could tell a few of my family members were just as uncomfortable as I was. Emily, though, acted like it was the funniest thing in the world. She said it was just a joke, and she thought it'd be a funny way to acknowledge my progress. I tried to keep it together, smiled through it, but inside I was hurt and angry. Afterwards, I pulled her aside and told her the cake was completely out of line. She kinda rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, come on, it was just a joke, and you're being too sensitive. I was just trying to show I'm proud of you." I explained that my recovery isn't something I want joked about, especially not in front of people, but she didn't seem to get it at all. She just shrugged and moved on, like it was no big deal. Now our wedding is coming up in a few weeks, and I really don't want to go. I'm still hurt over what happened, and I just feel like she doesn't respect my boundaries. It's a big family event though, so if I don't go, everyone's going to notice and ask why. But honestly, I don't want to sit through the whole thing pretending everything is fine when it's not. I told my mom how I felt and she said I'm overreacting. She thinks Emily's joke was dumb but harmless, and that skipping the wedding would just cause drama for no reason. She keeps telling me to just let it go and not make things awkward, but I don't know if I can. I feel like this is more than just about the cake. It's about the fact that Emily doesn't seem to respect my recovery or my feelings. Am I really supposed to just get over it for the sake of a family peace? Not the a-hole. She crossed a major line. Your feelings are valid. Thank you. I absolutely agree. Don't go if you don't want to. You can, however, wear a sash with recovering drug addict on it and see how funny she'll find that. Not the a-hole totally, and your mom should be on your side and not to try to appease some family members. Take yourself on a trip on the day of the wedding. Take lots of pictures and share them with everyone on social media with captions that say things like, "My cousin reminded me how important it is to celebrate my sobriety, so I am." Enjoy your life. Your feelings are so valid. And that's the thing about invitations. They're requests, not requirements. You never have to go to anything you're invited to if you don't want to go. And it can be for any reason at all. Your cousin being a jerk is definitely a good reason. And anyone who is mad about it afterward can stay mad because you are allowed to make adult choices in your adult life. Your cousin was hurtful, period. And everyone else at a party, besides the ones defending her, knows it. If they're also invited to the wedding, they will completely understand when you don't show up. They might not even show up themselves. Who wants to celebrate a person like that anyway? I wish you well and congratulations on your sobriety. That's such an amazingly huge thing, and you've got all my respect.